and counting up on the other end. Hello everybody, it's Paul Ducklin here again from Naked Security at Sophos for this week's Naked Security Live talk. Before I start, and before I go into the subject for today, I do have something to show you. And now this is not super exciting, but for those of you who experience life through filters, that's not a filter or an animated add-on, that's a real illuminated Christmas icicle string. And the reason I'm showing you this is it's already double-digit day of December, and today was Sophos's very own Christmas jumper day. For those of you in the US, if you're not familiar with jumpers, think of a cardigan or a buttoned knitted jacket that doesn't have any buttons. You have to pull it over your head. Now, I'm not a jumper guy. As you can see, my fashion sense is far too advanced for that. So I figured I'd get into the Christmas jumper spirit with my little illuminated Christmas icicles to say a happy festive season. And Sophos, of course, is this time of year, it's a sort of company collection for people who have less than we do, to try and help those who are homeless or aren't going to have food. So I think that usually goes pretty well every year. But this is my visual contribution, an actual, real, non-animated set of Christmas lights on the screen. So let's get on with today's topic, because it's kind of a big deal. Certainly it's a big deal so far today in the UK and Ireland. Basically the two main Anglophone countries of Europe. That's where this scam has been targeting, but there's no reason why these scammers, if they're on a roll, might not try later today in North America, because the scam is against the Subway sandwich brand. And lots of people have received this email all in a burst today in the UK, and it's caused an awful lot of confusion. So what I want to do is we're going to go through what the scam looks like. I've prepared some pictures. We're going to talk about the steps of this particular fish. For most of you, it will be very obvious. It'll be quite clear from just glancing at it from the word go that this was a scam. But we want to talk about, unfortunately, Subway's response. They tried to do the right thing, but they put out an automatic tweet saying, "We're investigating, we'll let you know if we find a problem." And unfortunately, that seems to have created a lot of confusion, perhaps from people who aren't terribly used to receiving fishes, or maybe they don't get many, so for better or for worse, they're not quite as cynical as the rest of us yet. So here's what it looks like. There are a few different variants that we've seen. One said, "Good news," something about your order, with a slightly fancier looking email. But the majority of ones that we've seen, it has your name, so it actually knows your first name. That's, pretty easy to infer from most people's email addresses, or the crooks probably know that, because if they've bought data that came out in a data breach at some earlier time, they've probably got your real first name, your real last name, any number of email addresses related to you. They might have your phone number, which they can put in an email to make it seem more legitimate. They may even know your home address, which is what a lot of scammers use when they're sending fake bills. Fake utility bills, for example. It has your address, your right postcode and everything, and you think, oh, well, the only people who know that would be the electricity company or the gas company, so you're more inclined to believe it. So this one claims to come from Subcard, Subway ordering card, I guess, and it says it's from subwaysubcard.eu. So it kind of looks like it smells or sounds like it's from Subway. That domain name has nothing to do with Subway whatsoever. And anyway, if you look at the email which says your name, so this one says, "John, thanks for shopping with us. You'll find a summary of your recent purchase below. You will receive another email when your order has shipped. Review details," and there's a link in case you want to check it, because obviously this doesn't relate to an order of yours because it's bogus, so you're going to think, I wonder what's going on. There's a dead giveaway. They misspelt the word another, which is A-N-O-T-H-E-R, as another, which is an obvious giveaway. But this is what it looked like. I hope you can see that. I'll try and get that where you can see it and it's in focus. So email, it's fairly simple, and it had not one but two links that you could click. If the first one doesn't work, you can click the second. And if you were to do that to see what was going on, because at first glance it does appear to be related to Subway, and it has some Subway branding and stuff later on, what you end up on a cloud-based file distribution site. This one, they didn't get the branding right again. I don't know whether they copied this from an earlier scam. So you'll end up on a page like that. It's not terribly convincing, is it? But it does say all those links actually go to the same file. So you can click the button and it just downloads a file. It's like any cloud download or file locker service that just has the file. So there's nothing particularly suspicious about this. What is suspicious is the document you get. It's a spreadsheet, like you might expect for an invoice or payment or something. Most of us are going to be cautious about opening Word files that just came particularly through such a strange mechanism as this. And if you open the document, then of course there are macros, a visual basic for applications program inside there that once you've opened the document in Word, it will try and run that file and it will go out to yet another website and download a file. The download URL is something at random made up name .png. So obviously it's hoping that if you've got a firewall going through a firewall, it'll see .png and assume it's an image. Now, any good file won't do that. It will look into the file to judge what the file is. In fact, it's a DLL, a Windows executable module that includes additional malware. Now, we've seen some reports that say that the DLL that was circulating earlier today was an example of the so-called trickbot malware. That's malware that the crooks use for a while. They dig around on your computer and then they use it, sell it on to the next guys as a download mechanism to implant malware that comes next, very often ransomware. So you'd have to imagine in this case, the ultimate goal of these crooks is steal a load of data, snoop around on your computer, do a load of stuff, and when they run out of energy there, sell it on to people who will try and ransomware your computer and then demand money to get your files back. Once you've opened the document, the crooks have to convince you somehow into clicking the button that says enable macros or run content, because whether you're using LibreOffice, for example, the free version of free Microsoft Office compatible software that's available for Mac, Linux, Windows, or Microsoft Office or any other compatible stuff that supports macros, they're always off by default these days. And the reason for that is they're jolly dangerous, particularly if they came from outside, because it's down in your document with an embedded program. So the crooks generally, you probably know this if you've seen this kind of thing before, inside the document, they'll put somebody else's brand, or some other explanation of, oh, the document's encrypted or it came from this particular utility, and so you need to click this button in order to see the content. And so they pitch to you the idea that you have to turn off a security setting on your computer in order actually to reduce security that allow these macros to run. And this is how they do it in this case. They pretend, we see this very often. You may have heard of DocuSign. It's very commonly used in the UK because a lot of companies use it. The courts will accept these as digital contracts. It's a very popular company. They're completely innocent of anything in this case. It's just a very well-known brand for this is a document you might need. So that the brand is the deception, and underneath you can see the crooks are saying to see this document, because obviously if it's signed, it must be super correct and super secure, right? You have to do a whole load of stuff. And it sounds like you're improving security. Of course, you're actually making your security worse so that the crooks can actually get in. And they say, if the document was downloaded from an email, enable editing or enable content. So they tell you where to go in Office to actually make things worse for you. Under the guise of you making things more secure for yourself, you're actually making things worse for yourself and better for the crooks. So after that, as I've said, this document, the malicious, the malware that it contains is what's called a downloader. So if you're using a Sophos product, for example, you won't get this far because, well, you won't get to the website in the first place to get the download, and the downloader and whatever it tries to fetch, that isn't going to work because it's sort of blocked proactively. And as I said, the earlier today, we've seen reports that some of the stuff that was being distributed by these crooks was this trickbot malware. But remember, because the document links to a website that gives the next part of the malware, of course, the final malware that gets delivered can change by the hour, by the minute. It can change, for example, by whether you visited from the UK or from Ireland, which seem to be where these scams have gone out, because they've gone out with the Subway UK and Ireland brand on. Or if you suddenly come in from Germany, the crooks, they might have sold access to this, to their downloader program to someone else in Germany, and you might get a banking scam or something completely different. So the problem with saying this is all about ransomware is it probably was in at least one example that has been chased through to the end. But when you're dealing with malware that has in the middle of it the thing called a downloader that fetches the next stage, whatever comes next can be altered at will. It can even be made, because I tried to download this using command tools to fetch it rather than actually without pretending that I was actually inside Microsoft Office when I did the download. And the web server recognized, that must be a researcher coming, it must be someone looking who isn't actually running the infected document, because I got a 403 forbidden on that file name. So it told me the file existed, but it wasn't going to let me have it, because obviously I was trying to acquire it not to infect myself, but to help other people not infect themselves. And that's a problem that researchers and anti-malware sandboxes have all the time, is that if the crooks can detect that they think it's a laboratory or a researcher or an automated system or someone who isn't trying to get infected but is trying to learn about infection, if they can guess that that's the situation, then they'll either feed nothing at all, or sometimes they'll feed a completely innocent file to lead you into a false sense of security. So that's why anti-malware research is not for the faint-hearted, because it's very hard to know when you're dealing with crooks, when you get something that's supposed to be bad, even if it is bad, is that as bad as it gets, or if they deliberately fed you something to make things seem a little less dramatic than they are, or to get you to go out and write a detailed article explaining what to do, and then lo and behold, in real life, 5 hours later, what people are experiencing in the real world is completely different. So that's one of the complexities behind the scenes that teams like the people at Sophos Labs have to deal with. So you can see there's an email, it says it's from Subway, you click, then you have to download a file, and then it uses the brand. So that's using the Subway brand to trick you into believing the file, it's using the DocuSign brand to trick you into believing that there's some security in the document that needs your special attention. And the idea then, if you get that far, it will go and fetch some malware and try and implant it on your computer. And exactly what that does, it will depend on when you visited and what was going on the server at that time. So most of us wouldn't have fallen for that. However, there's a lot of fuss on Twitter, at least in the UK and in Ireland, about this, because I think that, now as far as I can see from looking at the sender of this email, it came from one of those cloud email newsletter services that lots of small businesses love to use, because it's much easier than running an email server yourself. You've got people signed up for a mailing list, say, to buy your illuminated Christmas icicle decoration series, or your home-baked pizzas, or your embroidery stuff. You could be an artisan business and you want to have a newsletter, but you don't want to have the technical hassle of running it for yourself. And the company that was used in this case, I won't name them, because there's no suggestion that they've got anything that they had no idea that these guys were crooks when they joined up. You can sign up, put in a credit card number. Goodness knows if you're a crook, you've probably got someone else's credit card number to start with. And for $29 a month, and remember, these crooks will need 1 day's worth of service, they won't need a month, you can send out a newsletter to a vast number of recipients in one region. So by jumping around from service provider to service provider, unfortunately, the crooks can provide themselves with electronic direct messaging or direct marketing services that are very commonly used by legitimate companies, and the crooks just sneak in and that's their subterfuge. They don't have to build their own mail server, they pay someone else to do it, and by the time everyone realises it's too late, all the scams or the spams have gone out. So as far as we can see, this has absolutely no connection with Subway at all. There are brands that have Subway-like names in them, but they're something.eu brands that will obviously look like they were created just for this scam. They're not owned by Subway. One of them's actually owned by a domain parking company, and anybody pretty much could have set up this account. I've no doubt that the owners of the mass mailing service behind this have cancelled that account now, and they're going to look and try and find out who it was. But by now the damage is done, because all the emails have gone out. Unfortunately, what Subway did, I don't have any problem with this. They had an automated system for people who were tweeting them saying, "You sent me a scam, you sent me a spam, you emailed me, your email," and they're trying to do the right thing. So it looks like you've been hacked, because I got this thing that it didn't come from you, it said it came from you. So Subway, obviously, they figure, well, we better look at it. And for better or for worse, the words they chose were Hi, whoever, whatever your Twitter handle is, thanks for bringing this to our attention. We're aware of some disruption to our systems. We understand you may have received an unauthorized email. Perfectly true. We apologize for any inconvenience. It's nice that they're sorry, even if it's not their fault. As a precautionary measure, I'll say that again, as a precautionary measure, please delete the email. Excellent advice. Of course, what people have inferred from this is, oh, Subway it must be legitimate, it must have come from Subway, so they're kind of probably reading much more into this than ought to be. So, we haven't actually found out who created this account to do the mass mailing, but it does seem as though this is very common, that the crooks will pick a really well-known brand, particularly one that's very widely used and that people maybe have a credit card on file or they're used to spending money with, and they're used to doing lots of transactions in small amounts. So if they get an email, they don't necessarily panic right away. They think, oh, but I better look into it just in case my account's been hacked. In fact, their account almost certainly has not been hacked, and the service whose brand has been borrowed almost certainly has not been hacked. What the crooks are hoping that in believing the email and using it as the vehicle for investigating whether you've been hacked, you will make the you've been hacked come true. So watch out for that, folks. So that's a scam as we've seen it unfold in the UK and in Ireland. It's huge news on Twitter. If you're in North America, let's hope that this isn't coming to you, because these emails are an annoyance at best. And as you can see, they're quite dangerous if you're not thinking clearly and you click through and you think, oh, I better look at this. Or if you think, I really need to check this out, because what if this did come from Subway and they really did get hacked? You kind of feel maybe you owe it to yourself to investigate right to the very end. The problem is that's what the crooks are hoping, that every little bit of advice that they've put in the email, click here, in the fake DocuSign thing, for your security, turn on this setting, and so on and so on. What they're hoping is that you will go through all of those steps. At the end, you'll probably satisfy yourself that no harm was done, because if this malware does infect your computer, you won't notice it. It just sticks itself in a Windows program that's already running and kind of sits there quietly. It doesn't instantly scramble all your files and pop up a warning. So it kind of sits there for a while, figuring out what to do next. So very quickly, let's look at the tips that you can advise your friends and family for something like this. The first thing is, of course, don't buy, don't try, don't reply. If you get an email from that you think comes from a company that you do have an account with, that you do business with, you should never need to click on a link in that email. You should be able to log into your account using the app you normally use, using the password in your browser that's in your password manager, or in a way that you know is the right way because you set it up before you received this email from an unknown person. For example, if it's from your bank or a utility company, you've probably got some printed record. If you've got a credit card, as we always say on the back, there's typically a phone. That's the phone number you should call for fraud. And exactly the same, if you have a Subway account and you're using it regularly, or any other service, not to pick on Subway here, why not take the time right now to go into via your browser or via the app and find out the correct phone numbers, the correct email addresses, the correct buttons in the app that you would use if you really needed to check whether there'd been fraud on your account, look at what payments had gone through and all of that stuff. So the big deal here in don't try, don't buy, don't reply is don't spend money where you know you shouldn't, because you just don't know the person. But certainly never react to something that is supposed to be about your security, whether it's by email, a phone call that leaves a number for you to call back, or an instant message that says contact us here, by whatever means. Never use contact details that came in the message that you're suspicious of. And as we said before, the reason is obvious. If it was legitimate, and if the email did come from Subway, and you did go in there, then you would find that it was legitimate. But if it didn't come from Subway, and in this case it did not, and you went looking, you would get the impression that it did, because the crook set this up so that it looks realistic. In exactly the same way that if you receive a call and it says call back to dispute this transaction, you press the button, do an automatic callback to that number. If it's the real number, you'll find out what's going on. If it's not the real number, the crooks will pretend it is, and you are no better off. So never use an untrustworthy source of information as a way of determining the trust in what you're about to do next. and take Subway's advice, delete the email, move on, and you will be fine. So thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great festive season. If you're going to be having a vacation over the next few weeks, please enjoy it. We'll be doing Naked Security Lives anyway, so even if you're on holiday, you're more than welcome to tune in on Fridays as usual. So until next time, stay secure.